You don't have to change your personality to be a leader. Andrew Luck.
Size doesn't matter. Don't fool yourself. Kenny Moore II.
Bad seasons happen. Bad moments happen. Things don't go the way you plan them to go. You got to meet those head on, and you got to accept it. Chris Ballard.
Good morning. My name is Peter Miller. I'm a sixth form boarder from New Canaan, Connecticut, and I am an addict. Yes, you heard that correctly. I am an addict. But my addiction, passion, obsession, fascination, fixation, whatever you want to call it, is not what you may be thinking. And believe it or not, I've learned a lot from this infatuation. For as long as I can remember, I've been completely immersed in the world of sports. Little kindergarten-aged me would spend countless hours in the backyard kicking a soccer ball, shooting half-court heaves on the basketball net, even pitching myself a wiffle ball and hitting it as far as I could. Eventually, rec soccer games became Sunday car rides all over the state to play other town teams. Early Saturday morning trips to the ice rink before the sun came up ultimately made way for weekends at the squash courts, playing with my dad, sister, friends, or competing in tournaments. It's safe to say I've had a taste of everything out there, but none of these sports are my addiction. As I got older, football became the game which piqued my interest the most. While I was undoubtedly too small to play full contact, I began playing flag football. I aged out of it after just 2 years, and after 2 great seasons with the Chargers and Giants respectively, it was time for my football obsession to take on a new form. Over the next years that followed, I transitioned from a player to a spectator, spending hours watching NFL games, watching countless YouTube videos that related to the NFL or college, and keeping up with the latest news. You may have seen me sporting my oversized blue Indianapolis Colts sweatshirt on Sunday evenings in the dining hall, with the hood up for good luck, of course. In either one of 2 moods. Grinning ear to ear, happy, upbeat, and elated after a win earlier in the day, or looking like someone who likes to rip the heads off of squirrels for fun, glaring at whatever's in front of me with a demonic look in my eyes as I cope with the loss by sulking. One might say I pour too much emotion and attention into just following a football team. Do I put too much stress on myself for something that's out of my control? Maybe, but I don't care. To me, it doesn't matter what other people think about my strange obsession. Because it brings me happiness and joy, it shouldn't have to make sense to anybody else. Like I said earlier, I've learned a lot about both myself and life from being a Colts fan. And I know that you're probably thinking, Peter, how can you learn anything from watching football besides that you get a lot of concussions? Well, I'm going to share a few of the lessons I've learned from this unconventional approach to self-education. The biggest thing I've taken away from this is that patience is a virtue. In my time watching the Colts, I've experienced a year in which the team won just 1 game in their first 6, starting 1-5. At such an abysmal record, many people were ready to write the season off as a failure. But, as I would soon learn, the NFL season is a long one. Amazingly, 1-5 became 2-5, and then 3-5, and then 4-5, and the team just kept winning. The next thing I knew, I was sitting on my living room couch watching the 10-6 Colts win a playoff game on the road, even after their horrendous start. Had I known this would have been the outcome, I would have tried to be way more forgiving than I was. Now, having seen such an improbable turnaround occur, I am much more aware of the possibility that anything can happen. Additionally, I have seen the same Colts team, which was posed for a big year the next season, lose their starting quarterback to a shocking decision to retire. While I was initially crushed, there was one word that echoed inside my head: patience. Now, on their third quarterback in 3 seasons since Andrew Luck's retirement, it seems as if the patient waiting is paying off, as the answer to the quarterback question finally seems to have an answer. From an everyday life perspective, I see patience as a useful trait to possess. While it isn't always easy to hide our frustration with a teacher after receiving a bad grade, annoyance with a roommate after they refuse to take out their trash, or the stress of an upcoming test or competition, patience is the best thing that you can have in these situations. You'd be surprised how effective just taking a few deep breaths and ignoring the issue can be. To use a personal example, being a camp counselor can be very irritating at times, especially when you're living with a bunch of 11-year-old boys who just don't seem to listen. Remaining calm, collected, and composed, even when deep down I wanted to scream at the top of my lungs, is what got me through those 7 weeks of summer. Patience. It's a pretty good skill to practice. Maybe more important than patience, though, I've come to understand that making decisions is hard. What makes it easier, however, is when you have someone who's making a similar choice to lean on for guidance. It's easy to follow their lead because it's the easier option. But I have learned that it's not about choosing the easiest or best option. It's about choosing what's best for you. In 2018, I watched in horror and disbelief when I saw Colts general manager Chris Ballard spend back-to-back draft picks on Braden Smith and Darius Leonard, who at the time were nobodies to me. Having never heard of their names or ever heard of the school, South Carolina State, it was easy to overreact by complaining about their irrelevance, just because I was unfamiliar with them both. Ballard went against the grain and took a risk by drafting these guys, and he got plenty of heat for it. One writer analyzing the draft called the Leonard selection the worst pick in the draft. Just 1 year later, though, Indy got the last laugh, as Leonard ended up winning the Defensive Rookie of the Year award in 2018. Now, both selections can be seen as slam dunks, since both players have earned multiple All-Pro selections in their young careers. Why do I share this? Because despite knowing he would get criticism for his decision, Chris Ballard didn't just choose who was the best player available. He went with who was best for his organization, his team, and is reaping the rewards. The same can be true for the rest of us. When it comes to completing homework, for example, there may be one method or process which comes easier to you than the other method that some of your classmates or friends might use. Instead of using the approach they're using just because if everyone else is doing it, it must be better, figure out which way works best for you. Sometimes venturing off the beaten path and blazing a new trail is necessary to achieve your goals. Another thing I've learned, and the one which has resonated with me the most, the importance of having a short memory. The Colts have a motto which they use to remind themselves of this. Want to know. Meaning that no matter what happened the previous week, the focus is always on the next opponent. They've embraced this mentality and have figured out that pouting and complaining about what have been doesn't do any good. I asked Ben to read that Chris Ballard quote for a reason. Things don't always go to plan, and when they don't, you have to accept the reality and move on. Dwelling in the past is more detrimental than beneficial. Just as staying living in the present is the best way to approach your day. I've incorporated this accept and move on mentality into my own life, and I've discovered that it has had a tremendous impact on my thinking. Get a bad grade on a test? All right. Figure out what you need to improve for the next test and move on. complaining about why you got a bad grade, bad phrasing of a question, forgetting to show your work, or even thinking your teacher has a personal vendetta against you, does not help you moving forward. What does help you is learning from your mistakes and leaving those mistakes behind you. There's a reason the windshield is bigger than the rearview mirror, because where you're heading is much more important than where you've been. The list of things that I've learned about myself, life, and sports is infinite. And if I tried to get to all of them, we'd be here all day. But through the ups and downs of my football obsession, my eyes have been opened to endless new perspectives, mindsets, and ways of thinking. In this case, I believe that this addiction in particular has changed me for the better. Thank you.